Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Those words, when translated from Arabic to English, simply means God is the greatest. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Those words mean peace be unto you. That is the spirit in which we stand before you in Hyde Park, Speaker's Corner. We have a message which is primarily for those who are not here, and the message is for the black man. We're calling the black man. We're calling black boys, because we have a problem in this world with black men and black boys in particular. So that's who we primarily are aiming our message at. Those of you who know anything about Speaker's Corner, it is a place where it has a tradition going back into the 17th century, where the British government set this place up to prevent popular revolution of the people. The idea being that those persons within the society who either have political, social, religious, or economic difficulties with the society as a whole, they would come to this place and they would vent whatever it was that was on their hearts and in their minds. And then the government would send people, agents, to listen, to determine whether what was being stated or what was being said was serious, whether it was revolutionary, or whether the speaker was on an ego trip. And by assessing what was being said, the government could curtail or stop popular revolution from ever developing to the point where it became a shooting revolution. Because this place is designed to be a place where people can come and vent. Say whatever is on your heart, say whatever is on your mind. Over the years, it has become a place where you can find any manner of people here who want to say different things. And lots of people come, tourists and other people, they come because it's very interesting to listen to all of the different speakers. And some people find it to be tremendous fun to heckle the speaker, and then the speaker curses them and then they curse back, and everybody has a wonderful time. Those of you who are here for that kind of game playing, I suggest to you that you keep moving to my right and your left, and I guarantee you will find some fun along the way. But we're not here for those kind of games. We're here because we have a very serious message that we would like to share with whoever cares to listen. You are not obligated to stand here and listen to us. So if when we speak you don't like what we say, you should use your God-given intelligence and move along. But don't stand there and begin frothing at your mouth and becoming more and more incensed, where you begin to develop ideas of doing us harm. The reason why we stand in this configuration is not because we are here as aggressive people. We are completely peaceful. We adopt this stance because we have been coming to Hyde Park, Speaker's Corner, for in excess of 20 years. And in that time, we have witnessed on numerous occasions the assault, physical assault of various speakers, and we have seen violence break out in many instances. And on occasion, this happened with us. We have been attacked here by the police, and we have been forced to defend ourselves. And so we have seen it all, and so we are not intimidated by those who think that they can stop what it is that we have to say. Our stance is purely defensive. And every creature designed and created by Almighty God Allah has been given the wherewithal of self-defense and self-determination. And we as human beings, as black men in particular, we reserve the right to our self-preservation and our self-defense. And so that's why we adopt this particular stance. We are sending a message to any potential aggressor: don't go there. We are not Christians. We do not turn the other cheek. If you slap my cheek, I will kick all 4 of your cheeks. This is how we roll in the Nation of Islam. We are tired as black people of people treating us as their beating sticks. That day is over. We make no apology as black men for standing firm for our human and people rights. This is what we're about, and this is what the Nation of Islam represents. We believe in freedom, justice, and equality, regardless to creed or class or color. That is what we believe. We do not believe in black supremacy, but most certainly we do not believe in white supremacy, that system of oppression that currently dominates our planet. Our job in the Nation of Islam, a part of our remit and a part of our agenda, is to pull down the false premise of white supremacy, which most of the human family have bought into, not just white people. We got black people who are white supremacists. We got brown people who are white supremacists. And of course, the white man is the author and the maintainer of white supremacy. Our job is to pull down and destroy the false concept of white supremacy, and to raise up the equally false concept of black inferiority from the ground where it's been crushed to. And so we're going to pull black people up with no apology to nobody who want to call us reverse racist. And while white supremacy comes down and black inferiority rises, we meet in the middle. And now we can deal as human beings. No more master-slave relationship. The master-slave relationship is finished. That is our stance. That is what we believe. And we, who are members of the Nation of Islam, following the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the leadership and guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we have a message to the black man. Because the black man today, in 2019, is a man who has been made now almost into a laughingstock. Nobody takes the black man serious. We're just used to be somebody's tool. We are the sportsmen. We're the singers and the dancers. And we're also labeled as the pimps and the criminals and the drug dealers and the killers and the vagabonds of society. We're the bogeymen of British society and other Western systems. And we want to dispel that lie and destroy those myths and put the black man back on the map where we belong. Who is the black man? The black man is the original man. If it wasn't for the black man, no other men could be on this planet. We are the fathers of humanity. We gave birth to all of you, and the last one we gave birth to was the white man. You are a little baby in the history of humanity. You're a child compared to the original man who is the Ancient of Days according to Scripture. You are just a little baby who has been here for a few days. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, you should honor your mother and father so that your days may be long. But today you are the biggest abuser of your own parents all around the world, in the UK and in other parts of our planet, in Africa and in the Caribbean. You continue to abuse black people. But your abuse is now coming to an end. Not because you want to end it, but because God has declared that your abuse is to come to an end. Who is the black man? The black man is the original man who is directly related. I want you to hear what I'm about to say to you. I'm talking to the Arabs. I'm talking to the Pakistanis. I'm talking to you who call yourself Muslims and you want to declare that we are not Muslims. The black man is the original man who is directly related to the creator of the heavens and the earth. You can say astaghfirullah, oh Allah, please forgive them. That's blaspheme. I'm going to say it to you again. The black man is directly related and descendant from the creator of the heavens and the earth. We are the children and the people of God. We are the people written of in all of your scriptures. From the beginning to the end of the Holy Quran, it's speaking about the original people. From the beginning to the ending of the Bible, it is speaking about the original man and the original people and our relationship with Almighty God Allah, and inviting new people and people who don't know that reality and those origins, inviting you to try to approach the nature and the mentality of the black man. What is the nature and the mentality of the black man? Our very nature is to submit our will to do the will of God. That is the nature of the black man. What is the nature of the black man? Our nature is a peaceful nature. We can prove this at no limit of time. And those who try to label us as the violent people, now our young people, our youth, have been labeled as the violent people in British society. We are the knife wielders, and we're gunmen now, and we're so violent. And little white women, when they see black men coming along the road, they hold their handbags because we've been labeled as these thieves and these criminals and these violent people. But these labels that we have been given and that some of us wear, sometimes with stupid pride, they are mislabels. They are not the truth. The black man is the most peaceful man on planet Earth. And that's why to this day, you cannot show a gun or a bomb or some other weapon of mass destruction. You can't show one with a black man's name on it. We don't make such things. You can't show where the black man has ever left our national borders, so to speak, and have gone and invaded or attacked other nations and enslaved them or persecuted them or denied them their humanity. You can't show that in any part of your history. That is not the nature of the black man. The nature of the black man is peace. I was giving a lecture in a place, and I was talking for 1 hour and a half, and in the front row there were some white people. And when we finished what we had to say, a white man in the front row, when it was the questions and answers, and by the way, when we finish speaking today, you will have your opportunity to question us, because if we speak in the public and make public statements, we must be prepared to answer questions in the public. And so if you would be patient with us until we conclude what we have to say, at the end of that process, we'll be happy to entertain your questions and do our best to answer to the best of our ability. But this white man who was in the audience at a lecture that I gave, the white man in the question and answer period, the white man said, I've sat here and I've listened to you for over 1 hour. And he said, if I was a black man like you, based on what you have said and what you know, I would want to kill all white people. I said to the white man, and he had tears coming down his face. I said to the white man, yeah, I understand that's what you would want to do. But I said, that's why every morning when you get out of your bed, the first thing you should do is get down on your knees and pray to God and thank God that black people don't think like white people. Because if we thought like you, if we were as vengeful and wicked as you, not one white person would be left alive on this planet. Because despite the fact that you have given us labels like BAME, black and ethnic minorities, despite the fact that you like to refer to us as minorities, we are not a minority. We are the majority on the planet. If there are, in fact, 6 billion people on the planet, and there are more now, but if there are, in fact, 6 billion people on the planet, black people are a minimum of 4 billion. And I'm saying black like me. And then you got brown, and you got yellow, and you got red. And we outnumber Caucasians, who are a very small minority on the planet. We outnumber you a minimum of 11 to 1. That's the reality. But you think that you are a majority because you've convinced yourself of your white supremacy. And because you currently control the news media, and you currently control various strategic regions in geopolitics, you push yourself into the center of everybody's business, and you convince yourself that you are so numerous and you're so powerful and you're all consuming on the planet. But I have to say to you, this is just a myth. You are the minority on the planet. The black man is the majority. And if we thought like you, as I said before, you wouldn't be here. But it's because we are merciful. It is because we are the most loving and kind people you have ever met. That's why you could enslave us for 400 years. And sometimes there'd be thousands of slaves on the plantation and just a couple of hundred white people. But yet you lived, because we're not wicked and vengeful. Because your enslavement of us was actually ordained, and you were meant to rule for a time. But now your time to rule is up. Your time to rule is finished. And so, where you've gone all around the world, and you've made mischief, and you've made trouble, and you've enslaved, and you've colonized, and you have manipulated other people's realities and brought them under your control, those days are rapidly coming to an end. Those days are over. And we want the black man to realize that your time is now. It is your time, black man, to come back into your power. Not come into power in order to subjugate and in order to oppress other people like they did to us, but come into power to bring back the balance, to bring back the freedom, justice, and equality to our planet. Because if it's left to white people, those of you who are looking to the United Nations and the 5 permanent, liars, or the 5 permanent powers to bring about peace on our planet, you'll be waiting for eternity. It's never going to happen. The United Nations was never set up to bring about unity and parity and equality of the nations on the planet. It was set up as another tool of domination for a few power brokers on the planet. This is why whenever they're ready to ignore the edicts of the Security Council, like Israel and America and Britain, they can ignore it. This is why the so-called International Criminal Court only prosecutes Africans, black and brown leaders, not war criminals like Tony Blair, not war criminals like George W. Bush, not war criminals, by the way, they say had Germany won the Second World War, Churchill would have been a war criminal. Because Churchill was so wicked. The things that he did behind the scenes during that war, in terms of, let me give you one example. One night they launched a bombing campaign against a city in Germany called Dresden. And in one night they killed over 150,000 Germans, men, women and children, civilians, bombing civilian targets. Yet they want to give you the idea that they are the innocent allies, the Democrats, the wonderful people, the gentlemen. But they say if they would have lost the war, that man would have been tried as a war criminal, because they're all criminals. They're all criminals. It makes me laugh. I want you to understand what makes us laugh in the black community. Some of us who are waking up to the time and the reality. It makes me laugh hearing white people denounce Donald Trump. White people are so angry with Donald Trump. This man is the worst thing since sliced bread. They call him every ugly name under the sun, Donald Trump. And they want everybody to hate Donald Trump. But let me tell you what I see when I see Donald Trump. When I see Donald Trump, I don't see no difference between Donald Trump and any of the other presidents who have ever ruled in that White House. The only difference between Donald Trump and the previous presidents is that the previous presidents were professional politicians who knew how to speak the language of diplomacy. In other words, duplicity. Who knew how to lie and hide the reality of what they were dealing with. Donald Trump is a coarse businessman, knows nothing about diplomacy, has no filter between his tongue, his brain, and his mouth. And so whatever comes into his head, he just says it. And the reason why white people are so upset with Donald Trump is because Donald Trump is an embarrassment. Because he says what you think. And it's like he's spilling the beans. He is a damn racist. But so are you. But you're just very good at masking your hand, hiding the reality of what you do. Because Barack Obama, when Barack Obama went into the White House, he was a pretty ordinary black man. Extraordinary in that he was able to go through their schools of education and learning and rise to compete for the highest office in white supremacy. But understand this, once Mr. Obama entered the White House, he was no longer a black man manifesting his natural qualities. He became the CEO of white supremacy in that White House. And he had to carry out the bidding of white supremacy whether he liked it or not. He ran on the premise of change. Change we can all believe in. Nothing changed. It was just more of the same. And everything that Trump is currently doing on the border of Mexico, Obama was doing the damn same thing. Obama was a bigger bomber in the White House even than Bush Jr. Obama killed more innocent people with drone strikes than Bush Jr. This is reality, documented history. Because when he went into that office, he has to change and adapt. Even Trump was under the impression that he could go in there and do something different. Trump is a nationalist. He's a little Americana. He believes in closing the borders and being a nationalist and make America great again. And by the way, make America great again is only code for make America white again. But America was never white. This is something else you need to learn. It was never white. It was stolen from the indigenous people. And it was Africans, enslaved Africans, who built America. We built the White House. We drew out and mapped Washington. We did all of it. And those of you, because some of you still think, oh, black people, those little inferior people that you need to go to Africa and help, you need to think again. You don't understand who they came and found in Africa and who they destroyed as a human reality systematically over hundreds of years using a system of tyranny and white supremacy. I'm going to go into some of that in a minute. But just for those of you who you like to believe this notion that we're so inferior. If we're so inferior, why is it that during slavery you had to have the black man or the black woman cooking your food? Why would you take a savage out of a jungle and bring them into your kitchen to cook your food? The reason why we cooked all of your food during so-called slavery was because we were the cooks. We knew about seasoning, we knew about spices, we knew about how to cook. White people, you didn't have a clue. Why did we suckle your babies on our breast? This is where you get the term mammy, mammary gland. Why did we, the black woman, suckle the white children on her breast? Why would you put your baby on the breast of a black woman who you believe to be a savage? No, you wouldn't do that. You put the baby on that black breast because you knew that the milk was full of power and energy for your little white child to grow up and to become another white racist. This is the reality of what we as a people have been through. And we want to dispel your mythical ideas about your supremacy and our inferiority. You don't know, but many of the things that you take for granted today, everyday household items that you use, these were invented by black people just coming out of slavery. But in those days, we were not allowed to patent anything that we designed or made. And so the white man would put his name on it and take credit for what we created, what we developed. And then those things come into everyday use and you think that this is the white man's doing. We hear some people sometime, I think it was last week, somebody was saying to us, oh, you're criticizing the white man, but you're dressed like the white man. And so we had to put them right. We're the ones who were the first human beings on the planet to wear clothes. Oh yes, because again, you've been watching too many Tarzan films. One little white man running around in the jungle. He can talk to the animals. The Africans who have been there for thousands of years, we're as dumb as hell. We can't talk to the animals, but Tarzan, he can command the elephant. He can talk to the lion. He can get from one end of Africa to the other in about 20 minutes on a vine system. More superior to London Underground. This is how delusional you are in your white supremacy mindset. We taught you how to dress. We are the people who introduced you to clothes. When we were wearing silken garments, when Egypt was in a decline 6,000 years ago, the white man wasn't even a thought. But 4,000 years ago, according to your own history books, you were in the caves and hillsides of Europe grunting. Grunting. The Caucasian man, the white man, just a few hundred years ago, you thought the earth was flat. And you thought if you went too far out into the ocean, you fall off the edge. This is what you thought. But the black man had already circumnavigated the entire planet. In fact, we were doing intergalactic flights in and out of the planet Earth. Oh yeah, white man is shaking his head. Really? Oh man, you're gonna learn some things about the black man very soon. And by the way, those of you who are getting real nervous, those of you who are getting scared about the potential of an invasion of little green men from Mars on UFOs, I can tell you right now, there are no little green men coming. But the pilots of those vehicles that you call unidentified flying objects, they look like me. They look like me. And they are not from some alien place. They're from right here, with a superior technology that you could only dream about. That you could only dream about. And the powers that be, your rulers, your leaders, they know who are the pilots. That's why UFOs are classified above top secret. You cannot learn about them. And they keep feeding you ideas of ETs with long arms. Ooh. To get you all spooky, thinking about some aliens that are like blobs of jelly, and you're expecting some creepy little thing to come one day. Black men pilot those vehicles. And we dare the powers that be to challenge us on this. Because we have the proof and we have the technology. And that's why today you got to understand that it's a new day. And while America and Britain are trying to conduct business as usual, it's not going to be business as usual. The Iranians don't play subjugation. The Iranians don't play sitting down and being destroyed by any foreign power. The Iranians are Muslims. They submit to no one and nothing but Allah. They bow to no one and nothing but Allah. And I warn you, America and Britain, in the name of Allah, you need to leave the Iranians alone. Because you are playing with fire. And the day of white supremacy, and you're dominating the planet and going around and causing trouble and making mischief and blaming the victims and calling them the mischief makers, when from my last, I'm not very good at geography. I'm not very good at geography. But the last time I looked, the Strait of Hormuz wasn't round the corner near the Isle of Wight. The last time I looked, it was down there in what you call the Middle East. So I'm wondering why you got all those aircraft carriers down there, all those warplanes down there, all those weapons of mass destruction down there pointing at Iran. I want to know, when did Iran come and do anything to you? But you are a mischief maker. And I'm warning the Islamic world. I said it to you last week, I'm going to say it to you again. You love the white man so much, but the white man's going to prove to you who he is. Your love, in the Holy Quran, Allah asked the question, will you love them even though they turn you out of your homes? Even though they do evil to you, yet you love them in secret? This is what the book asks you. Because you're so enamored and you think that they're so wonderful while they continue to attack and destroy Islamic nations like they were confetti.
Teach.
And the Islamic world, which is a world of innovation and technology that was supposed to rise and rival the West in all of its prestige, the Islamic world, every time a nation comes up, they destroy it. They crush it. And unless you bow to their way of life, unless you are going to be in acceptance of LGBTQ, unless you're going to accept all of that, then he will crush you. Because you're bowing down to Allah, he don't have no respect for God. No respect for the rule of God. As far as he's concerned, you're some archaic, old-fashioned person because you dare to make God supreme. Because as far as he's concerned, he's supreme. He's the one that you should pay obeisance to. And so, I just want to remind us, because some of us, we hear now, every day on the news, they're accusing the Labour Party of being a party of anti-Semitism.
Go ahead, bro.
And the whole world is now, oh, the poor Jews, oh, they've been persecuted in the Labour Party. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We need to help the Jews. Oh, you're so pitiful. You know, the Jews, they suffered under Hitler for 4 years. I don't know what the figure is. Some say it was 6 million that went into gas chambers. Some people argue and dispute whether that really happened in the way in which it said it did happen. I don't really concern myself with those arguments, mostly arguments between European Caucasians, because that's where, if there's any anti-Semitism, it's always been a European phenomenon. It's never been anything to do with black people. Now they want to call Hamas and Hezbollah, they want to call them anti-Semites. Yet Arabs are Semites. Damn liars. For us to be anti-Semitic, we would have to be against Arab people, because they're Semitic people. Jews haven't got a monopoly on Semitism. For me to be an anti-Semite, I would have to be against my own self, because I'm the father of the Semites. Semites come from black people. You're called Semite because it means semi, part of one thing and part of another. So don't try and put that small-time stuff over on us. The book says, let me tell you what the book says. Let me tell you what both books say. The Quran and the Bible says, they say they are Jews, but they are not Jews. They are of the synagogue of Satan. That's the book. That's what the books say. Now you want to argue with somebody, go and argue with God. Because there are people masquerading as Jews, pretending to be Jews. In the Nation of Islam, we're Muslims. Guess how we feel about Jews? We love Jews. We love Christians. We love all the people who call the name of Almighty God Allah and His prophets. We have no problem with any believer in God, regardless of what they call God and regardless of who they claim to be their prophets. What we have a problem with is people who come like Satan, pretending to be an angel of light, masquerading and claiming to be Muslim when they are not Muslim, or claiming to be Christian when they're not Christian, or claiming to be Jews when they're not Jews. This is what we have a problem with. And so, this claim of anti-Semitism is a smokescreen. designed to stifle any criticism of Israel and its evil apartheid policies against the Palestinians and its machinations and designs on the Middle East to control all of the oil and all of the resources in that region, being an outpost of America and Britain, an outpost of the West in order to control that area and control Arab people and the Persians, who are the people who occupy that place called Iran. But I say again, the Persians have a long tradition, and they are not people that you can just roll over. These are Muslims, and they will fight, and they will win, because they believe in Almighty God Allah, and they are a people who will not succumb to your threats. And when you take one of their ships, they take one of your ships, because that's now what is happening in the world. Before, you could take the ship and the people wouldn't respond. But that's all changed now. White supremacy is coming down. Mr. Trump, the other day, he said he wanted to attack Iran, but he pulled back at the last minute. I mean, this arrogance, the sheer arrogance of Caucasians, where you talk about punishing other nations, where you impose sanctions on other people, preventing them from being able to do normal trade and normal business on a global scale. And you frighten other nations into going along with your policies. Those days are over. Those days are coming to an end. Let me just remind you, the involvement of Britain in particular in the transatlantic enslavement of Africans and black people, that began in the year 1555, when a Caucasian man, a white man by the name of John Hawkins, came on a ship named Jesus. Remember how Satan comes. He always comes disguised as an angel of light. So he comes on a ship named Jesus to pretend that he is a righteous man. But he's coming with nefarious plans and aims and objectives, and he's coming with evil intentions.
Leo, we come back.
All right. Looking forward to seeing you, brother. In order to demonstrate, when John Hawkins began taking Africans out and bringing us on a westerly course, one of the first things they began to do to demonstrate their complete ownership of black people is that they would brand us with hot branding irons. They would put their mark on us, either the mark of the individual slave owner or the mark of the plantation would be branded. Sometimes they would brand us on our breast. Sometimes they would brand us on our buttocks. Sometimes they would brand us on our arms or our backs. Sometimes they would even brand us, depending on the level of sadistic nature of the slave owner, they would brand us in our face with a hot iron. This is what the Caucasian did. I'm going through this because the Jews, or the so-called Jews, want to try and claim a monopoly on suffering. Over 4 years. I want to tell you about 400 years. 400 years. The black family during the 400 years was completely and systematically destroyed. Destroyed. For those of you who watch these little sitcom type television programs depicting slavery, they put one on the other day. They made one depicting some Caribbean people. And I mean, honestly, it was so sickening, I couldn't even watch it, because they were basically saying that the black woman in slavery fell in love with the white man. A damn rapist. But the way they depict these things, if we're not careful, Before you know it, slavery didn't even happen. Because they're constantly telling black people, oh, come on, man, that was so long ago. Forget about it. But what you don't know is that slavery weren't so long ago. In terms of historical things, that was yesterday. That's classified as modern day slavery of black people. And we're still suffering the legacy of it today. Today. We're not over the trauma of it yet. I'll never forget when they were building up to the so-called Iraq War, the Gulf War, I think it was the first one. And Saddam Hussein took some white people and held them in a 5-star hotel for a few weeks. They said they were hostages. 5-star hotel. And Saddam fed them 3 meals a day. But they were held. They couldn't fly out of Iraq. And those white people to this day are having therapy. Therapy. Because they were held against their will in a 5-star hotel, fed 3 meals a day. The black man and the black woman who was captured in Africa was a very, very beautiful and powerful people. Beautiful people. A very loving people. Look. Look. Mischief maker. Don't make mischief. Don't make mischief. Don't make mischief. No, you can't. We haven't finished yet. Don't make mischief. They always come and try to make mischief because the white man always has to be at the center of everybody's attention. He can't help himself. That's his nature. The people mustn't focus on nothing but him. The people who are enslaved were systematically destroyed and made, transformed into a new species. I'm talking to you black people. I want you to understand, black people. I want you to understand, black people, that your current, present condition is not your true, original nature. During the 400 years of slavery, the white man systematically produced a new species of human being on the planet. As a black person, Almighty God Allah did not create you to have fear of the creatures, to have fear of other people, to have fear built into your DNA. But today, many black people are frightened and they don't know why. They have fear and they don't know why. That is because that was systematically bred into you over a 400-year period of white tyranny. This is something you must understand, because many of us who are trying to solve the problems of black people in the contemporary reality, we're starting from the branch of the problem. We're starting from the symptom of the problem, but we never ever go to the root cause in order to understand what has been done to us over a systematic period of time to bring us to the condition that we currently are in. Look, man, the Caucasian man, he used fear as a weapon to enslave and to make the people into a pliant people that he could use for the development of his world. I want you to understand that white people, they are not the builders of this world. The people who have built this world are black people. Even to this day, many of you don't know, but the people who keep the offices running and keep the offices clean in corporate Britain are black people. The people who keep the NHS and all of these institutions going are black people. We're the ones, when you go there late at night and those midnight hour workers, it is us that you will find there. We're the carers. We're the ones looking after old white people in care homes. We're the ones. We're the ones looking after white people who are now senile or suffering from senile dementia. We're the ones. We're the carers in the society. We take care of them. We clean their offices. We do all of those menial jobs that they didn't want to do. After the Second World War, when our families were invited to come here from the Caribbean, we came here to do all of those jobs that they wouldn't do and they couldn't do because they haven't got the strength to do. But black people would do this in order to help them to build their world. And what do we get in payment? We get racism, we get windrush, and we get all of this evil pointed at us and labeling us as the vagabonds or the bogeymen of the society. Look here now. The number one and most specific fear that was systematically bred into the new species was total and complete fear of the white man. That was bred into us. Total and complete fear of the white man was bred into the black man. Bred into the black man. Do you know that there was a time when it was against the law for a black man to look at a white man in his eye? We could lose our lives for that. There was a law called reckless eyeballing. We were recklessly eyeballing the white man if we dared to look at him in the eye. This was a law in a statutes book. I'm going to tell you what was done to us because you don't know. You think you know. The white man ruled over the enslaved Africans with absolute 100% total tyranny. Tyranny. Because you know, the white man today, he loves to talk about terror. Terror. The terrorists. Let me tell you something. You don't know nothing about terror. You don't know nothing about terror. We lived through 400 years of terror. Terror. And there was nobody coming to our aid. All we could do was survive. Let me tell you one of the things he did. He would allow the black enslaved people to get together at a certain point after they had he would allow the black enslaved men to get together with the black enslaved woman, and they would copulate, and he would deliberately cause hundreds of black women to become pregnant en masse. Because again, people, when they talk about slavery and the enslavement of Africans, they think it was some haphazard kind of thing. There was a few bad apple white people who got involved in it. No, this was systematic, it was industrial, it was the way of life. And these black women, once they were impregnated and they reached the term of about 8 months pregnant, the white man, in order to instill fear, he would bring the pregnant women or herd the pregnant women like cattle into a central courtyard or a central place. The white man would then secure one of the pregnant women to a tree or some other secure place where she couldn't escape. He would then take a knife or a sword and he would cut the woman from her breastbone all the way down through her pregnant stomach till he reached the vaginal bone, causing the unborn child to fall out, spill out onto the ground. The white slave master would get all of the overseers to force all of the other pregnant women to watch. They were not allowed to turn away and shield their eyes from the horror before them. They had to watch. And then the slave master would take his boot and he would stamp the head of that baby into the ground. This was systematic terror being fed through the eyes, going into the brain of those women. The brain would then create and form adrenaline fear that would permeate every fiber of that woman's being, including her unborn child. So they knew exactly what they were doing. And so babies, African babies, black people would be born afraid, not knowing why, based on what was done to their mothers. The horror of what they witnessed through their eyes would produce little frightened babies who were then ideal for further enslavement. After the first generation of Africans brought those babies onto the planet, those men and women who were the fathers and mothers, they were killed. They were killed in order that the mother could not teach the baby the mother's tongue. Because as African people, as black people, we had our own languages. To this day on the African continent, you can't count the amount of languages and dialects that we speak, because we're a highly literate and intelligent people. And we are the authors and the originators of all the languages that you find on the planet. But we were not allowed to teach the mother tongue, so the mother was murdered. We were not allowed to teach the father's name, so the father was murdered. And this is where the teaching to black people that we came to Africa and we found you swinging through the trees with a bone in your nose. This is where that teaching comes from. Because when you make a people ignorant of their origin, make a people ignorant of their great antiquity, when you make a people ignorant of their great and glorious past, you can then miseducate them into believing any nonsense about themselves. This is what happened. They changed our diet. As African people, our original diet was mostly plant-based. We ate very little meat as a people. We are vegetarians by nature. Many of us were fruitarians. We only ate fruit. And we ate the leaves, the plants, the edible ones, beautiful, and we lived hundreds of years. Some of you today, you read the Bible and you hear about the ancient matriarchs and the ancient patriarchs and the great prophets, and the scripture says they lived 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years. Methuselah lived nearly 1,000 years, 950 plus years. When you read that today, many of you say, that's a myth. Oh, that's so far-fetched. That could never happen. You are mistaken. Once upon a time, that's how we lived. Because we ate according to our nature and we followed the dictates and the commands of Almighty God. That's why many of you who know me personally, many of you have been watching me on television back in the 90s. Many of you, you look at me, you wonder, how comes he hasn't changed from over 20 years ago? Well, that's based on our diet. That's based on the fact that we're going back to our original diet. And we don't age, and we don't break down, and we don't become decrepit, because there's a way to eat, black man and woman. That's right. That if you ate right, you could look like you were 16 for the rest of your life. Take it or leave it. This is real. And that's why when they assassinated Malcolm X and they performed the autopsy on him, the doctor said he had never seen the inside of any human being so clean. Because Malcolm X for 12 years in the Nation of Islam was following the dietary law of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, eating one meal a day and eating only certain foods, special foods, natural foods, and not these processed foods that we go to the supermarket and grab today, which are shortening our lives. Most people today are ill based on what you put into your mouth. But we don't understand. And anything the white man produces, all the new drinks, energy, he says this is an energy drink. The white man says, here's Coca-Cola, which is pure poison already. But here's Coca-Cola, we've taken the sugar out. Sugar-free Coca-Cola. Everybody goes, oh wow, I'm on a diet, I need that. But what they put in replacement of the sugar is pure poison. Aspartame and other poisons, which are carcinogen, and they give you cancer. And so now everybody's getting cancer, everybody's sick, and you don't know why, because of what you're putting inside of your body. Because we don't care. Some of you drove up here today, and your car, the instruction manual says, unleaded fuel only. And you've never driven into the petrol station and thought to yourself, maybe I should try some diesel today. You've never driven into the petrol station or driven somewhere and thought, maybe I'll try some paraffin. Or maybe I'll put some water in the petrol tank. You would never dream of doing it. You stick to the instruction manual of the manufacturer of that vehicle because you want optimum use from that vehicle. But as a human being, you left your home this morning. You wasn't planning on eating certain foods. But along the way, you meet somebody. And they say, oh, would you like this? Oh, yeah. And you chuck it down your throat. Oh, would you like that? And you chuck it down. And you see something else and you chuck it down. And you never stop to look at the label and look at the ingredients and wonder, what is this word that I can't even pronounce? What is it? You just eat it. And so, we were plant-based diet people. And one of the problems, one of the reasons why today many of us are in trouble is because our diet has been changed. And by the way, one of the ways that you instill fear or you breed fear into people is change their diet. Because certain foods that we eat, and black people have become renowned as people who love to eat chicken. We love to eat chicken. That's what the popular concept is. But why do you think when you're cowardly, you're called a chicken? Because you are what you eat. And whatever you eat, whatever creature you eat, you will manifest the characteristics of that creature. And that's why when you're driving down the road today, and you meet these savage people on the road who won't even allow you to come out of a side turning, that's because they had smoky bacon in the morning. That's because they had a gammon steak in the morning. That's because they ate some pig trotters. And they're now what's called a road hog, because they have the characteristic and the behavior of a pig, of a swine. This is the reality. I know you think I'm joking, but I'm not joking. You are what you eat. You become what you eat. You begin to manifest the characteristics of the creature that you eat. This is real. And so, they gave us and they forced us in enslavement to eat the swine. And they gave us even the worst parts of the swine. They gave us the belly or the tripe of the swine. They gave us the feet of the swine. They gave us the tail of the swine. They gave us the ears and all of the nasty parts of the swine. That's what they would throw to the slaves. And quite often, they would not give us those things until those things were rotting, till those things were putrefying and going off. But the black man and the black woman, we're so ingenious. We're so resilient. Our nature about spices and cooking is such that we would spice up these foods, spice up these meats to kill the putrefying taste. This is where in the Caribbean now you get these so-called jerk foods, jerk chicken and jerk pork, because we would kill the nasty taste by spices, seasoning. White man knows nothing about seasoning, but we are the originators of seasoning. Today, you go into, is it Kentucky or Kentucky? Today you go into Kentucky, and in the Kentucky shop, they say that this is Colonel Sanders' secret recipe, herbs and spices. But what you don't know is that Colonel Sanders was a thief, and he stole the recipe of a black woman in the Deep South. That's where the secret herbs and spices come from, because we are the original cooks. And that's why they use that now for Kendutti. But let me wrap this up shortly. The dehumanization and the brutalization against African people knew no bounds. There was no limitations. Where you think, you know, nowadays we complain about ill treatment, and, you know, people will say, even in their wars, in their First World War, their Second World War, in all of their wars, they will tell you that they've got rules of war. And when they capture the enemy, they are obligated, based on something called the Geneva Convention, to treat the prisoner with a modicum of dignity and respect. And according to the history, during the First and the Second World War, when the British and the Americans would capture German prisoners of war, they treated them very well. And they fed them, and they could keep their uniforms and so on and so forth. But some of the black soldiers who were fighting on behalf of Britain, fighting on behalf of America, were worse treated than those Germans that the British and the Americans were fighting against. They were afforded more dignity, more respect than the black people who were fighting on behalf of the so-called Allies. That was our reward for helping Britain and America. And so, no aspect of the lives of black people was left untouched by our enslavement. Every aspect was to be systematically enslaved. Every aspect, mind, body, and soul. There was no, it wasn't like, oh, let's just chain them up and they can think for themselves and they can do. No, they went to work on us on every aspect of the humanity of a black man and woman. It had to be destroyed and made subservient to white supremacy. Look, man, I'm about to finish. During our enslavement, we were denied the knowledge of ourselves. We were not to know who we were from ancient antiquity, our relationship to God, our relationship to our ancestors. We weren't to know nothing like that. Africa was to become a forgotten place. And anything that we were then to learn about Africa had to come from the white man. And they called it the Dark Continent, and a place of savagery, and a place, and by the way, some of you have heard the stories. Back in the day, they used to draw cartoons of little Africans, naked Africans with a little loincloth, and the African would have a big bone through his nose, and there'd be a poor white man in a big pot, and the African would be going around the pot ready to eat the white man. Because they were perpetuating a myth of African people being cannibals. But let me tell you, you cannot show me one piece of evidence ever in the annals of history of Africans performing cannibalism. It never happened. And you can't show, in actual fact, one incident of cannibalism. But the white man, cannibalism is your nature. I'll give you one piece of proof. Just one little piece of proof. It was only the other day that there was a plane crash in the Andes. A plane came down with some white people on board. And they say that within 3 days of that plane crash, the survivors began to eat one another. They began to eat the dead bodies of those who were in the crash with them, who had died in the accident. That's the nature of white people. You can't go hungry for 2 minutes without looking around to see who you might eat. But black people, every one of you, you've watched the films, you've seen the news reports, you've seen the Africans dying, little children with elongated stomachs, full of nothing but gas, with their skin hanging off their bones, dying of starvation. You've never seen one of those mothers or fathers say, oh, well, we might as well. No, the babies die, and then the mother and father dies peacefully and quietly, because that is the nature of the African. That is the nature of the black man. But white people, you know nothing about privation. You can't go any length of time hungry without turning completely savage. And I'm warning you, black people, because a day is coming when there will be shortages. There will be famine here, because war is coming. And when these people get hungry, I know you think you're going to be able to go to your neighbor and say, oh, I'm a little bit short of sugar. No, when they see you, they see sugar. They see chocolate. You ain't going to get nothing from them. And if you think you're going to be able to compete with them in the supermarket for that last thing on the shelf, you got another thing coming. They will kill you, because they know nothing of suffering or privation. They don't believe in it. They will not countenance it. They will not suffer it. This is something that you will see in time. We were denied our own names in the popular show called Roots, and in the book called Roots. The brother's name was Kunta Kinte. Kunta Kinte tells you something about his antiquity, tells you something about his culture, tells you something about his past. The Bible says a good name is better than silver and gold. This that I'm standing in front of, that I'm standing behind, this is called a lectern. This that I'm standing on is called a podium or a stage. You got to call a thing by its proper name. If I started to refer to this as a pencil, I would look like a fool. But the point is that they called us out of our names. So today you have all these black people running around. Our name is Smith, Jones, Robinson, Green, Brown, Mr. White, Mr. Hogg, Mr. Gilly-McCuddy, Mr. O'Toole, Mr. O'Fool. These are not our names. When you go as a black man to China tomorrow, take out your passport, put it down. The Chinese immigration official, when he sees that passport and he sees Mr. Smith, he expects to look up and see a white man. When he sees a black face, he says, uh-oh, another one who hasn't got any knowledge of himself. The reason the white man gave us his name is because the giving of a name denotes possession. He means that he owns us. And as long as you continue to walk in the white man's name, you belong to the white man. Don't matter what you say. As long as you're in his name, you are his property. Look, man, we were denied the ability to read. Muslims are taught that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was in a cave when he received revelation from Almighty God Allah through the angel Jibril or Gabriel. And the first words that the Prophet heard was Iqra, read in the name of thy Lord. Read, because reading is how human beings acquire knowledge, wisdom and understanding. But black people were denied the ability to read for over 400 years. They were deliberately trying to make us dumb, foolish, and lower us to the level of the beast of the fields. We were not allowed to read. We were not allowed to marry. There was no such thing as a black family anymore. There was no such thing as a black husband and a black wife and black children in a family unit. That was destroyed. Soon as our babies would be born, the slave master would snatch the baby and put the baby in another plantation. separate the wife, the man from the woman, separate the children from their parents. This was done over hundreds of years. Today, people are puzzled. Why does the black man impregnate women today and then disappear? It is because it's become part of our genetic makeup, part of our very genetic DNA. Because when you practice something like that for over 300 years, that becomes a part of your very genes. And that has to be educated out and taught out, so that once again the black man would recognize that family is the cornerstone of nation, and that we must rebuild the black family and not continue to go into women, make babies, and then disappear, leaving her to be a single mother, raising the children. But this was done to us historically. So as I close, black men and women and children would be randomly raped. The white man would rape the black woman. He would rape the black child. He would rape and sodomize the black man. This is documented history. This is what the white man did systematically for hundreds of years to black people. Today, they're very upset with the island of Jamaica, because the Jamaicans, from the government down, are saying that they will not accept this doctrine of LGBTQ and homosexuality as a way of life in Jamaica. And there are some other countries on the planet who have also adopted that stance. And those countries are now to be targeted by the West to make them bow, to make them force them into capitulation and to go along with the white man's way of life. But Jamaica have said, no, we are not going to tolerate that type of behavior on this island. Why? Because the Jamaicans, Jamaica was one of the islands that they used to season, what they call season the slaves. And Jamaica was one of the places where the sodomization of black men in particular was rampant. And we have a memory of it. And we do not accept it as a way of life and as something that we now want to turn around and perpetrate and perpetuate ourselves. And so the war is on, the battle is on, because they intend to try to make the whole world submit to this way of life. But there are pockets of resistance on the planet. And Almighty God Allah declares in both the Bible and the Holy Quran that the behavior or the act of homosexuality is an abomination. God does not like it. He is against it. And we don't care who promotes it and who tries to make us to be some old-fashioned, archaic, not moving with the times. Oh, you black people, you're so behind the times. You got to get up to speed, man. We don't care. We are with God. Why are we with God? Just think about it. Even the lesbian. You know, in the Holy Quran, Allah says He hates ungratefulness. Hates ungratefulness. In the Bible, the book says, and I quoted this before, honor your mother and father so your days may be long. When I was growing up, the elders always said to us, don't forget where you're coming from. In other words, there's something in our past that we need to pay honor and tribute to if we're going to enjoy today and tomorrow. What am I saying? I'm saying the lesbian. The lesbian who is now so arrogant that she will deny God, deny her mother, deny her father, and that unit that produced her. She wouldn't be here if it wasn't the coming together of a man and a woman. That homosexual man, so arrogant, but you couldn't be here unless a man and a woman got together. But now you know better than God and his design. Now you're going to create a brand new design. And you're now going to prove to God that his design was a mistake. Okay, well, as I complete what I have to say, see the butterflies, they're coming into the country by their millions. The other day we were here talking about nature and the black man's in tuneness with nature. And just to prove it, the butterfly came and landed on my head. And then the butterfly went and landed on one of the other brothers' heads. Because the creatures, they pick up vibrations. The creatures know where it's safe to land. And when the creature landed on my head, I didn't swat the creature. I left the creature alone, and the creature stayed there for a few minutes, enjoyed himself, took in the beautiful scent emanated from my head, tuned in on some of the brain thoughts and processes, and then the creature left. The creature has been around here for several minutes. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. The creature was here for several minutes. Then this white man came. Then this white man came and tried to crush the creature. Soon as he arrived, soon as the white man arrived, he tried to crush the creature. But all praise is due to Allah. The creature flew away. The creature flew away. And so, the white man, listen, what you got to understand about the white man is this. What you got to understand about the white man is this. His job is to come here and get you to look at him. The white man would take the black man, and the white man would take the black man. He would take a black woman, and they would tie the arms of the black man. They would tie the legs of the black man between 4 horses, and then they would hit the horses, and have the horses run off in 4 directions and tear the black man from limb to limb. These were one of the punishments that they would dish out to the enslaved African during our 400 years of slavery. The white man, he would whip us near to death because we would disobey his rules or his laws. After he would whip us, and he would open up major cuts and wounds in our bodies based on the sharpness of the whip, he would then take salt and he would pour the salt into the wounds and rub it in for maximum punishment and maximum pain of the black man. This is where the term in English comes from, rubbing salt into the wounds. This was directly from slavery. By the way, the game that the white man likes to play, the rich white man likes to play, what is it when they're on the horse? Called polo. That game originated in Australia, where the white man went on his horse. He would capture little Aborigine children, and he would bury them up to their necks in the dirt, and then he would ride along with a mallet, and he would knock the head of the Aborigine child off. That's the origin of the game polo. That's your white man. That's his nature. That's what he does. And you will never cause us to forget the reality of what you have done to black people. We remember. We will never forget. And we will never forgive that wicked treatment that you meted out to our ancestors. Because we're suffering to this day based on what you did. And we're not going to allow no so-called Jews to give the world this idea that they have a monopoly on suffering. You don't know nothing about suffering. 4 years under Hitler, 400 years under the white man. 400 years under the white man. One of our ministers in the Nation of Islam, he went to visit the Holocaust Museum, and he went to look at some of that which is depicted in the museum about Adolf Hitler. And this minister, Brother Khalid Muhammad. Khalid Muhammad said that he went into the museum and he looked very carefully at Hitler, and he studied what was written about Hitler, and he looked at the production of Mein Kampf, the book from Hitler, and all of the other things that is said that Hitler did. And Brother Khalid said he was trying to make a distinction between Hitler and other white people. And Brother Khalid said he couldn't find any distinction. For those of you who want to hold Hitler up as some kind of strange anomaly, no, Hitler and Mussolini and all of them and Stalin and all of them, all Caucasians, you all had the same mentality. And the same mentality exists today. And that's why, if you're not careful, very soon bombs will start falling on Iraq. And innocent people who have harmed nobody, but because they are a thorn in the side of the regime called Israel, they must be destroyed. Because they have aspirations to be a modern progressive country and a modern progressive society, they must be destroyed. Because no Islamic nation must ever rise to the degree where they can challenge or rival the Western hegemony or Western domination of our planet. I'm about to finish. I'm about to finish. We would be randomly beaten with any instrument the white man could put his hand on. Randomly beaten. We suffered starvation at the hands of the white man. There was no such thing during slavery as a fat slave. Most of us were absolutely emaciated and skinny because we were near starvation during slavery, yet we had to work 24 hours, 7 days a week almost. The African people said we worked from can't see morning to can't see night. Every time we looked it was dark because all of the light hours we were working. I'm going to close now. Some of the more sadistic things they would do is they would put a bung, they would bung up our anus. Put a bung in our anus. They would stop our nose. Then they would force feed us liquid until we suffocated on our own vomit. These are some of the things the white man liked to do for sport to black people. Some of the punishments for breaking the laws of the white man during our enslavement, he would amputate our fingers for a small, they would do this to the children. When the children transgressed the law, they would amputate their fingers or they would amputate toes. Some of us, they would amputate our hands. Some of us, they would amputate our feet. Some of us, they would amputate the whole arm or the leg, depending on the severity of the transgression of the slave laws. They would cut off our ears and they would cut off our nose, leaving just the holes in our face. They would cut off the fleshy part of the nose and leave just the holes in the face of the individual as a mark of ugliness and as a way of mocking that person because they were insolent to the slave master. They would castrate the male genitalia and they would keep our penis and our testicles as souvenirs in a jar on their mantelpiece. And there's a deep science behind all of that because it's called penis envy. Because the black man's reproductive organs are the most powerful reproductive organs on the planet. And anyone that we lay down with, we don't care what color she is, the baby, the offspring is going to be black. And the white man knows this and he's terrified of the black man's ability to reproduce, and so he would cut our penis and our testicles off on a regular basis. He would mutilate the female genitalia. All this hypocrisy today, talking about, oh, female genital mutilation, oh, they're against it, oh, this is so terrible. That was standard practice during our enslavement that they would do to the black woman. This is what they did to the black woman. And they would use instruments and push it inside of the black woman, hot irons, in order to destroy her ability to have sexual relations with any of the slaves. Or if she would resist the white man. If she resisted the white man's advances, because as much as they like to hate on black people, they love to sleep with us. They did a survey of Germans during the height of their Nazism and their hatred of black people, and they discovered that those Nazis, their favorite bed partner would be a black person. It's not an accident that the white woman, when you ask the white woman, what's her ideal man? He's tall, dark, and handsome. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you call us nignogs and niggers and blacks and coons, and oh, you know, you make black people feel there's something wrong with their color, but as soon as the sun comes out, you're out there trying to get a tan. During the Second World War, the white woman, when she couldn't get makeup, she would put gravy on her legs to make her legs look brown. This is fact, till the Americans bought you some tights, some stockings, but you were so desperate for some color that you would put gravy on your legs to try to look a little bit more natural. They would cut off the black woman's breast, scoop out all of the fatty tissue, and they would dry it and use her breast as a tobacco pouch. This is the white man. The white man. This was part of his practice. Wasn't one white man or two white men or a small bad apple group of white men. This was standard practice. That white men would walk around with the dried out remains of a black woman's breast full of tobacco. That was his tobacco pouch. They would cut our tongues. Somebody like me during slavery, my tongue would be gone. Talk too much, nigger. Talk too much, Negro. Shut your mouth. Cut out the tongue. That's what they would do. They would gorge out our eyes. Gorge out the eyes so that we were blinded, or they would use a hot poker to take the eye out. This was the things that we were exposed to during our enslavement. For those of you who think enslavement was some little walk in the park, some picnic that we went through. We would suffer death by hanging. We would suffer death by beheading. Beheading was regular. Those of you you're so appalled by these barbarian Saudi Arabians. Oh my God, you mean to tell me that they bring out their convicted rapists and they bring them into a stadium and they cut off their head on Friday after Jummah prayer, and the whole stadium says Allahu Akbar when the head rolls, and oh, that's so barbaric. No, you used to cut off black men's heads like it was going out of fashion. You were a regular beheader of black people, and beheading is in your history, all throughout your history. Go back and study your kings and your royal courts. They used to burn us at the stake. We would be tied to a bonfire, and then they would burn us at the stake. They would drown us into many rivers. The Mississippi was a place that's layered with black bodies because they would drown us in these rivers. They would kill us by impaling. So they would have massive metal hooks, and they would hook the black person by their side and hang them on this hook and leave them there for days while they suffered and died. They would impale us on stakes and leave us to die. They would lay us out in the sun, what they call, where you get the term in English, stakeout. Stakeout, where the police are staked out watching a building. Well, the original term for stakeout came from enslavement of black people, where they would take us out in the midday sun and stake us out, tie our hands and our legs and put stakes in the ground and keep us staked, and then they would cut with a knife into our bodies. Then they would pour honey or molasses into the wounds, and then they would leave us there to be eaten by insects. This was fun for the white man. These are the things he did to black people during our enslavement, while, by the way, we were working for him and building his world. And so, and by the way, for those of you who want us to believe that William Wilberforce, a nice white man, turned around one day and just freed us, no, no, no. You need to understand the truth of what happened. All throughout our capture and enslavement and torture and living under tyranny, we would always be rebelling and fighting back. We always attempted to escape, and that's one of the reasons why they would cut our legs off, cut our feet off, and why they would torture us, because we were constantly trying to escape, constantly trying to find a way to free ourselves, constantly attacking the white man whenever we had the opportunity, in particular in the Caribbean, in places like Haiti and in places like Jamaica. We would run away into the hills, and then we would grow our hair very long. This is where you get dreadlocks from. This is where the Rasta man comes from. These were Maroons who went up into the hills, and then we grew our hair long, and it was matted. We couldn't comb it, so it became matted, and we became known as dreadlocks, because the word dread means dreadful. We were scary to the white man. And then we would come back down out of the hills and raid the plantation to free some of our brothers and sisters, and in due course we would kill the white man. And after a while, it became untenable to maintain the enslavement of African people, of black people, and ultimately they had to free us. They had to free us, but even when they freed us, they never really freed us. In 1833, 1844, we were supposed to have become so-called emancipated, but you need to go to your dictionary, because emancipation don't mean freedom. The white man is a real trickster with language, but we'll go into that another day. I want to thank you for listening. I want to explain to you that we're not going to stop our work. We intend to build a nation for black people, a nation within a nation. We intend to educate our own children. We intend to become, once again, an independent and sovereign people who bow to no one and nothing but Allah. And we're calling on the black man, we're calling on black boys. Come and join your nation. Come and get back your dignity, come and get back your respect. Come and be a man. Stop being somebody else's lackey. Stop being somebody else's tool or somebody else's fool. Your nation needs you. Black women need to see a strong black man. They're tired of looking for a man and they can't find one. And so, brothers, I'm appealing to you. I want you to remember, as I close, on the 1st of August, we're going from Brixton, Windrush Square, to Parliament Square. We do it every year. It's the African Emancipation Day Reparations March, where we go to Downing Street and we charge the Prime Minister and the British government with genocide. And we demand from the Queen of England and the British establishment reparations for the damage done to African people and black people. That is the 1st of August, Thursday the 1st of August this year. And we invite all of you to come along and be a part of that march and be a part of that demand for reparations. I want to thank all of you who have stayed here and listened to what we have to say. I want to greet you as we began in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the tongue of Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. All praise is due to Allah.